You're hanging out after hours with Matt Anderson, presented by Inside the Gamecocks.
What is up, everybody? I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. Welcome into the show. If this is the first time that you're catching the show, my name is Matt Anderson. I am your host for all things Gamecock After Dark. I want to say, normally we do record this show on Monday nights live on YouTube, just like we're watching it right now. And then we also have a show that usually pops up into wherever you get your podcast on Friday morning or early Saturday morning or sometime throughout Friday. We did have some technical difficulties last night. And when I say technical, it wasn't that technical. We just had some conflicts with family, and producer Phil and I just couldn't get on the same page, and that's expected. That happens sometimes. We all have our lives, and family comes first. So a little bit delayed getting here tonight to visit with all of you, but so thankful that you're here. Again, my name is Matt Anderson. I'm the host of this show. You can get in touch with me, right here on the comments on this YouTube stream, which is a lot of fun. I had to talk with Phil before the show started today. And I said, Phil, man, I missed all the comments last time. I just didn't know where to look. It can be a little overwhelming when you are doing this for the first time because, over on this screen over here, I have a video of myself. I have the comments. So I'm really excited to be live here with you guys tonight. What's up, Xavier? Good to see you. I'm happy you popped in today. So obviously we had a big game over the weekend. We had South Carolina and Mississippi State doing battle inside Williams-Brice Stadium under the lights. We'll talk a little bit about the game here in a minute, but there are some other things I wanted to talk about real quick. We don't talk a lot about Gamecock basketball right now because obviously we're in football season, but Gamecock basketball is kind of like my bread and butter. It's what I grew up on. I was a ball boy a number of years ago for all those Eddie Fogler teams. So I've been a big fan of the Gamecocks for a really, really long time on the basketball side, well before I was a fan on the football side. So the Gamecocks did get some news today and wanted to talk to you guys about that. The Gamecocks earned a commitment from 4-star forward Hayden Asamian. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a 2025 commitment, so a little bit early. We're still in the class of 2024 now. But just a real big opportunity for South Carolina to have a really good 2025 class, already having a guy of that caliber in the fold. So Lamont Paris is getting it done. He had a number of recruits on campus this past week. I'm looking at this right now. You had Eli Ellis, Trent Noah, and Oku Federico all on campus this past weekend. And let me pull up their 24/7 ranks for you guys really quick while we talk about them. So Eli Ellis is a 6'1", 190-pound point guard. He is out of Hickory, North Carolina, Moore Vivian Prep. Really high ranking, a 4-star kid, ranked 62 overall in the 24/7 sports rankings and 82nd overall in the 24/7 sports composites. He's got offers from South Carolina, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, a host of other schools here. And I'll pull up the entire team list. He's a kid that, offers from Wake Forest as well. He's a kid that, if you go watch his highlights, he's really a pass-first point guard, kind of a team leader. One of those kids that you'd love to see in the garnet and black. And then you also had from the class of 2024, Trent Noah. Trent Noah is a small forward, 6'6", 200 pounds, out of Baxter, Kentucky. Really kind of down to Butler in South Carolina right now. So another kid that's very high 3-star, ranked 132nd in the country on 24/7 sports and 146 overall in the 24/7 composite. And then Oku Federico is he's been committed to South Carolina for a while. This is one of the foreign kids. Completely forgot about him. So power forward, 6'9", 2024 class. Had offers from Pittsburgh and Syracuse. So good gets there. So really excited for what Lamont Paris is doing. Lamont Paris obviously had his work cut out for him, coming off of the heels of Frank Martin, everything that Frank was able to do for the Gamecocks, and obviously the way it ended. So One of the things that people don't realize all the time is that football games are a great opportunity to have baseball recruits, softball recruits, basketball recruits on the men's and women's side, soccer recruits. It really gives them a feel for what the South Carolina atmosphere is all about. So just wanted to make note of that. Want to talk a little bit of football recruiting. Not much. There's really not much to share at the moment. That's, kind of groundbreaking. But we talked on Thursday's show about recruiting, and I said that the Gamecocks aren't just going to take anybody to fill out their recruiting class, and that's still true. What the Gamecocks are doing right now is they've stayed in contact with a lot of players that are committed elsewhere at the moment, but have the opportunity. The Gamecocks have the opportunity to stay in the game for. Most notably, you have Cameron Fountain. He is a 4-star defensive end, committed to Southern Cal, ranked 48th in the country on 24/7 Sports and 103rd in the country in the 24/7 composite. 6'5", 237 pounds, from Atlanta, Georgia. The Gamecocks have slowly been building momentum there. This is a kid that I'm not sure will actually stick with his commitment to Southern Cal when it's all said and done. He's got visits to Auburn and probably a couple other visits coming up soon as well. I would be surprised if the Gamecocks eventually don't get him on campus before National Signing Day, and there's still a lot of stuff going on in the background with him. Another name that you'll all remember is Jalewis Solomon. Talking about a kid visiting Auburn. This is a kid that is committed to Auburn. It came down to South Carolina and Auburn, and as of the day of the announcement, I still thought it was going to be South Carolina. I know that Hale McGranahan on the Big Spur, one of my coworkers, already had the article written, and it wasn't like one of those articles that you write just because this kid might come to South Carolina and you just want to be prepared. No, I mean, this was an article that, Hale had done all his due diligence on, and it was a kind of a last second thing with NIL that kind of shifted that recruitment to Auburn. Jalewis Solomon is a kid that I've said forever, I'm not gonna believe it's over until I actually see him sign his name on a sheet of paper. I still think that South Carolina, Auburn, and to a lesser degree, Florida State are all in this recruitment. So be on the lookout for Jalewis Solomon. If you're just kind of coming back to Gamecock football, or you weren't really hanging out with us during the summer, Jalewis Solomon is a 6'1", 185-pound cornerback out of Ellaville, Georgia. He's a 3-star on 24/7 Sports, but on the 24/7 Sports composite, he's a 4-star. This is a kid that the Gamecock coaching staff thinks will be a 3 and done. 3 years in college onto the NFL, and Gamecocks have a lot to sell here. They have a great story to tell him. He's very familiar with Torian Gray and what the Gamecocks are all about. And it's also worth noting that Jalewis Solomon does have a younger brother who's a 5-star linebacker recruit in an upcoming recruiting class. So Gamecocks are not going to give up on Jalewis Solomon. Looking over at Elias Williams, he's committed to Missouri right now. He's another edge kid, so that's 2 edges that we've talked about so far. When I say edge, it just means defensive end. He's 6'4", 270 pounds. He's a 3-star recruit. Not a top 250 guy according to the rankings, but South Carolina likes him a lot. He's a kid from Hudson, Florida, and you can never really go wrong with big athletic kids out of Florida. I'm committed to Missouri right now. I don't know if he wants to go all the way to Missouri to play football. It's a long way from home. South Carolina is a little bit closer. So we'll see what happens with Elias Williams. Some other names to know, Jalen Brown, a defensive end. The Gamecocks have got to get more talent on the defensive end, on the defensive line, but also mostly defensive end and I guess defensive tackle too. They need help everywhere. What can I say? But Jalen Brown, 6'6", 235 pounds. Another guy that's kind of under the radar from Madison, Alabama, 3-star. And, I hear this all the time, and I know that JC has done this a lot on his show, where he just talks about how a 3-star doesn't mean you're not a good player. A 3-star means that you're above average. There's been a lot of 3-star players that have come through South Carolina and other SEC schools and schools across the country that end up being fantastic players. And we talked about it last show. Players mature at different ages. They mature with their body and their athleticism at different times. And I'm not sitting here trying to tell all of you that South Carolina needs to only get 3-star kids. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can find the right 3-star kids, the reason they're 3-star right now might be that they're just an above average player, not a great one, don't really have anything that you can look at developmentally to get them to the next stage of their careers. But when you look at a defensive lineman that's 6'6", 235 pounds, he's got length, he's got ability, he's got room for growth. Those are the kind of guys you get. So Jaylen Brown's one of them. And some other names to keep note of. A defensive back named Benjamin Black, a wide receiver named Jalen Hampton, who's committed to Western Kentucky. Benjamin Black committed to Rutgers. Quashid Scott from actually in South Carolina is a kid to really keep an eye on. He's committed to Kentucky. He's a kid, I think he's from Marion or Mullins. I can't remember. It's one of those M schools. Let me look it up really quick. Make sure I get that right for all of you. Yeah, he's from Marion, 6 foot, 185 pound safety. He's a guy that I think South Carolina should go all in on. I think he's a kid that the Gamecocks really can't afford to miss out on when you're looking at him going to an SEC East school, Kentucky, like South Carolina, kind of working their way up into, trying to get in that upper elite status of the SEC East and the SEC overall. I think you got to keep these kids home, and he's a kid that I will bang the table for as this recruitment, goes on. I think he has some relations to Cam Scott. I think he has some relationship with TJ Sanders or somebody else on the defensive line. I can't exactly remember who, but yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to Quashid. I don't know how to pronounce his name, guys. I apologize, but yeah, keep an eye on for that particular name. Outside of that, there's stuff going on in recruiting. The Gamecocks aren't going to take a body just to take one, so keep paying attention. But I know that there's a lot of folks that are getting kind of hand-wringing about recruiting right now, and I just encourage you to let it all play out. So I want to talk about the Mississippi State game now. First off, the atmosphere around the stadium the entire day was electric. As you guys know, I usually tailgate over at Stadium Village Lofts. I had the pleasure of catching up with JC for a little bit. He was tailgating in that area, and I always like to see JC when I can. We've been friends for going on 20 years now. So nice to catch up with JC. Nice to just be around the stadium. When you're in Stadium Village Lofts or, whatever, Carolina Walk, pick your, area you can tailgate or that people will have, homes at, whatever. But you can kind of see the stadium come alive as the game, starts to come up. And 7:30 kickoff. I actually took my mom to the game this weekend, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. We got to the stadium around 2:15, got parked around 2:30, and the stadium was already buzzing. I mean, people were already tailgating, people were having a good time. Walking into the stadium, it was crazy because I told you how awesome the Furman atmosphere was, and the atmosphere for the South Carolina Mississippi State game was even more electric. It was fun, hearing some cowbells, knowing that, SEC school came to travel to your stadium to do battle, and just so much fun there. So, hey, Will, glad you could join us tonight. Hope you're doing well. See, guys, I'm looking at the chat box tonight. I finally figured out how to do that. So, like I said, Will, good to see you. And y'all, when we talk about the chat box, if y'all have any questions for me, please fire them off. I say it all the time. I can go on a monologue for a long time, and it's fine, but I'd much rather have conversations with y'all. I'd rather answer questions that y'all have or hear your takes and see if we agree or disagree on them. So make sure you get that chat box firing off. Excited that you're all here tonight. Thank you so much. So let's go to the game itself. Got really excited. My mom really wanted to see the new Cocky introduction and 2001. And while I know a lot of people were a little bit underwhelmed going into the Furman game and with the big build up for how's Cocky going to come into the stadium, I have to say that I was even more impressed for game 2 than I was game 1. It looks like they have some functionality of the Cockaboose doing things that the Cockaboose was intended to do. It was really fun to see Alshon Jeffrey pop out of the back of the Cockaboose to, lead the Gamecock chant. You could just tell that Alshon was kind of overwhelmed with emotion being back in South Carolina, hearing the fans cheer for him and having his jersey retired. I mean, he had his entire family there, and he led the Gamecock chant, and it was it was rocking and rolling to start the game. So when we talk about the game, normally what I do is I kind of go blow by blow, things that stood out to me on each drive. So that's what I'm going to do right here. So what I'd love in the comment box, if you want to chime in and talk about something that I didn't talk about, or something that, that you agree with or disagree with, like, let me know. But the first drive of the game, the Gamecocks couldn't have started the game off any better. There was a Mississippi State punt. They went 5 plays and 34 yards. Gamecocks got the ball on their own 2-yard line after the punt, and it was a South Carolina touchdown, 98 yards in 6 plays. The highlight of that drive was a 76-yard crossing route to Xavier Legette, who took it to the house, and the Gamecocks went up 7-0. Guys, what we're seeing from Xavier Legette right now is truly mind-blowing. For where he started and where he's at right now, I'm not an NFL draft, junkie. I pay attention to the draft. I enjoy the draft. But as far as pegging, who's a first rounder, who's a second rounder, who's a fourth rounder, all those kinds of things. So many variables come into play between a player's age and the age they break out at, their success year over year. But for my money, you can't find 5 better wide receivers, or maybe even 1 better wide receiver in the country right now when you compare them to what Xavier Legette is doing. He's turned out to be a complete wide receiver for South Carolina. Been a long road to get here. He's worked extremely hard, and I couldn't be happier for the kid. So Mississippi State punt, Gamecock defense does their job. Gamecock scoring a 98-yard drive, 6 plays, and the place is absolutely electric. It took me back to the old days when I was at Williams-Brice Stadium, watching what the Gamecocks were able to do with a solid defense and just a good enough offense, and an elite offense sometimes, and the way they just kept the chains moving under Steve Spurrier. And Gamecock fans have been waiting for this moment. Gamecock fans have been waiting for a 7:30 kickoff, it's on SEC Network, but on national television for the most part, and wanted to showcase what Gamecock athletics and Gamecock football especially is all about. So Gamecocks go up 7-0. The next drive is a 5-play, 20-yard drive for Mississippi State. They punt again, and the Gamecocks are now backed up on their own 1-yard line. And this is what, I was really excited to see, because South Carolina goes on a 16-play, 99-yard drive. But what was really exciting about this drive was Mario Anderson getting 9 carries, rushing for 31 yards. It's really what the Gamecocks have been missing, because, you say nine carries for 31 yards. Okay, well, that's a little over 3 yards a carry, but that's really all the Gamecock offense has needed thus far to keep momentum going on drives. Spencer, and I say it all the time, like, the kid just has an arm touched by the gods. I mean, Zeus himself couldn't throw a lightning bolt as far as Spencer Rattler can throw a football. But, when you talk about, like, okay, a 65-35 or a 55-45 mix of run versus pass, the run plays have to keep the defense honest. And that's exactly what happened on this drive with Mario Anderson with 9 carries for 31 yards. Spencer hit Trey Knox for a 17-yard touchdown strike on first down. I think it was an 18 or 19-yard pass. It was absolutely electric in the stadium, like I said, but especially here because, especially in my section, and I was sitting in section 1, everybody was yelling, Trey Knox is open. And of course, Spencer found him. So the Gamecocks go at 14-0. Sandstorm starts. It's just absolutely crazy in Williams-Brice. And at that point, seeing what LSU did to Mississippi State the week before in Starkville, it looked like the route was on. So Gamecocks are up 14-0. I see you over there, Will. Xavier Legette is exciting to watch, and I like how Dowell Loggins is getting him the ball. Yeah, Xavier, it's absolutely crazy, to see what Xavier's capable of, because he's become a complete wide receiver. It's not just, comeback routes or, quick little 5-yard routes or, go deep or something like that, or, be a decoy. Xavier Legette is, slant routes, crossing routes, comeback routes, just deep bombs, just straight 9 routes. He's really hitting at everything. So I agree with you, Will. Xavier Legette is one of the most exciting. I mean, he kind of reminds me, and I saw this on, going off a tangent here, but I saw this on the Big Spur. And if you're not a member of the Big Spur, make sure you go check that out. But one of the things I saw was, like, who do you compare Xavier Legette to? And honestly, I don't know who I compare Xavier Legette to. I mean, from a raw athleticism standpoint and a raw just, you think every time he touches the ball, he can score. I mean, is it a Pharaoh Cooper? Is it a Debo Samuel? I mean, is he Julio Jones? Is he I saw AJ Brown's out there. I saw DK Metcalf's. I mean, in my mind, I think I just want Xavier Legette to be Xavier Legette. Like, who's going to be the next Xavier Legette? That's what I'm looking for. But, Xavier's making himself a lot of money, I would think, so far this season. And Dowell Loggins is a big part of that. Okay, well, I see you. Yeah, Debo speed with Alshon ball skills. You're right there. You're right there on the money, I think, with that comparison. It's something crazy to watch for a guy at his size to do what he can do with the ball in his hands. It's wild. So Gamecocks go up 14-0. Mississippi State then has a 2-play, 65-yard drive that just completely takes the life out of the stadium. It was really just one pass. It was Will Rogers hitting Laditra Griffin for a 65-yard touchdown where, Griffin might have just been, the fastest guy on the field when South Carolina was on defense. Just an absolute lightning rod there. Really sucked the life out of the stadium. The Gamecocks were still at 14-7, but there was the opportunity there for South Carolina to really light it up if the Gamecock defense had forced a turnover or something along those lines. But so, and then, South Carolina, and we've talked about this on the show before, it's really tough, to see, Mississippi State score a touchdown in that fashion and then a quick South Carolina punt on 3 plays, 3 yards. So, right there, it's still 14-7. Mississippi State gets the ball back. They go 6 plays, 56 yards. The big defining play here was David Spalding was able to find a way when it looked like Mississippi State was going to score another touchdown to tie this game, to get back in bounds after kind of being pushed out. I don't know if he was rerouted when he was trying to, defend this wide receiver. It was kind of tough to see in the stadium, but evidently, and I don't know the college rules. If one of you guys knows the college rules, let me know. I know that, an offensive player has to reestablish himself in bounds. I don't know if a defender has to absolutely reestablish himself in bounds, but David Spalding just with a huge interception when Mississippi State was driving to tie the game. It was one of the big game-changing plays for South Carolina against Mississippi State. Kind of killed momentum. Gamecocks took over, and then you got another South Carolina punt, 5 yards, 22-yard drive. And then Mississippi State ends up tying the game up with a 3-play, 68-yard drive. Again, it's really just one play. Will Rogers passed to Laditra Griffin again for 60 yards that sets up the touchdown. They end up tying the game 14-14. This was a big part in the game because right now it's 14-14. What's going to happen? Is this going to be a barn burner? The Gamecocks, how are they going to respond? Well, the Gamecocks responded with a touchdown drive of their own, 13 plays, 75 yards. Spencer had a big play here. Spencer had a big run for 25 yards on 3rd and 13 to extend the drive. And again, this is where I'm talking about with Mario Anderson. Earlier we had a 16-play drive and we scored a touchdown off of it. Again, Mario Anderson was featured on this drive with 27 yards on 6 carries. We talk about 75 yards and Mario Anderson's getting essentially 2/3 of them. That's keeping the defense honest. Xavier Legette, Tyshawn Russell, Trey Knox, and Spencer were all pivotal on this drive. DeCarrion punched it in from 3 yards out in a wildcat formation. I mean, you guys tell me, how many times has DeCarrion been successful in a wildcat run? I mean, maybe 3, 4, 5 yards here and there, but it seems like most of the time it's a 1-yard gain. DeCarrion lowered his head, kind of slipped a defender and punched it in from 3 yards out. So the Gamecocks at this point are up 20-14. And let me know in the chat box, guys. But what was y'all's take on the 2-point conversion attempt? In my mind, like in the stadium, it looked masterful. Like when it happened, it really did look like, wow, nobody saw this coming. This is going for blood. The guy is wide open in the left corner of the student end zone, and Kai Kroger just couldn't make the pass across his body. He didn't get it there, and that was a defining moment of the game. And yeah, Will, I agree with you. Good play call, bad pass, because at this point now, 20-14, it's no longer a touchdown game. Mississippi State can take the lead on a touchdown. And, the entire stadium, again, just kind of exhaled and said, what the heck is going on? Trying to capitalize on opportunities. And, Shane Beamer and Pete Limbo have been really good at that a lot in their time at South Carolina. But For my money, it was a good play call, bad pass, like Will said. It was just a little too cute for me at that point in the game because all of a sudden Mississippi State gets some momentum back. Mississippi State kicks a field goal. They go 44 yards in 6 plays and in 38 seconds. They had 3 different 10-yard chunk plays. And this was special teams again. Mississippi State missed, I think it was a 53-yard attempt. But the Gamecocks got called for a penalty on special teams for lining up over the snapper. And 5 yards, and the kicker drilled the next kick. It's 20-17 at halftime, Gamecocks leading. Yeah, I'm looking over the comments now. I mean, wish we wouldn't have done it. Felt unnecessary, like we were chasing that point all night long. Yeah, Xavier, I completely agree with you there. 100%. It felt like we were just wanting that point back. And Thomas Cox, yeah, I agree. I like the aggressiveness as well. At that point, it's 2017. Gamecocks leading. And one of the things I was really excited about is the Gamecocks, they won the coin toss and they deferred to the second half. And if you guys were listening to my show that actually came out, I think on Saturday, I recorded on Friday, I mentioned that if the Gamecocks had the opportunity at home, I wanted them to defer to the second half. I just think that gives your defense an opportunity to set the tone. The offense can ease into the game. There's not a lot of pressure on the offense at home. And look what happened. South Carolina touchdown, 1 play, 75 yards on the first play of the second half. Spencer connected with Xavier Legette on a 75-yard touchdown pass right down the Mississippi State sideline, just a 9 route. Just what a way to start the second half. That's talking about the aggressiveness on the 2-point conversion attempt. This was the aggressiveness that I think was missing under Will Muschamp, especially at South Carolina. To have the gall to just chuck it deep, and when times are it's a field goal game, and like let's reassert dominance, and that's exactly what South Carolina did. Sorry guys, you see me rub my nose. I've had a little bit of a cold here. I don't know if you can tell in my throat, but so great call to start the second half. Was super pumped up. The stadium was rocking. We had all the momentum again, and it was just it was a great throw, but a better catch and run by Xavier Legette. That ball kind of caught it on his hip and just kept running. And I think I've seen that. I mean, maybe it was this play or another play, but he actually ran like 22.7 miles per hour, which is the fastest speed in a game for any college or NFL player so far this season. So yeah, people are definitely taking note of Xavier Legette. But again, South Carolina gains all this momentum, and a Mississippi State touchdown again. 9 plays, 75 yards. Big play on the drive was another 30-yard completion to Ledietrich Griffin for 30 yards. I mean, we talk about Ledietrich a lot, I feel like. Mississippi State ended up punching the ball in from South Carolina 1-yard line. The Gamecocks lead 27-24. And then again, next drive for South Carolina. 3 plays, -7 yards. South Carolina punt. On 3rd and 5, Spencer got sacked for a 12-yard loss. Like, when the game is when the field position and the down and distance is manageable, taking a 12-yard sack, and I'm not saying that Spencer like absolutely took the sack. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, pass protection, whatever. But, that's just a momentum killer for a 12-yard loss. Thankfully, the next drive, Mississippi State went 3 plays, 4 yards, and punted the ball back to South Carolina. And again, this is why this game in particular was kind of like a wild college football game for me, because you have South Carolina punt, Mississippi State punt. It's 27-24, and then South Carolina fumbles 1 play, 1 yard. DeCarrion Joyner fumbled on the first play of the drive. In the stadium, it looked like a bad fumble to me in my eyes. And obviously, I try not to get too harsh with the players that are, putting their blood, sweat, and tears out there for themselves, but also, for college football fan entertainment. But it looked like a bad fumble. It looked like it just kind of got punched out. But, talking to a lot of folks that were watching the game on TV and folks that have, watched the game a couple times afterwards, some people think that it should have been a targeting call on Mississippi State on DeCarrion's fumble. You guys in the chat box and, you guys listening will have to let me know if it was just a straight fumble or if it was something where there should have been a flag called. I can tell you that DeCarrion was visibly upset on the sideline. I made a point to watch DeCarrion, walk off the field, see how he was handling it. And when I say he might have broken like 10 things on the sideline out of frustration, he might have broken like 10 things on the sideline out of frustration. I slammed his helmet down. He broke a lot of plastic things. I don't know what they were on the sideline, and he kind of walked towards the locker room. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, here's a kid that's frustrated because all of a sudden, Mario Anderson's having a great game. He's been wanting this for his entire career. But I think that okay, Will, you think the Mississippi State defender just made a great play. And then that could have been it. I think that he probably felt a lot of pressure in that moment. When I say he, I mean DeCarrion. But I appreciate y'all letting me know, because I didn't know what to make of that. It was just so bang bang in the stadium, and he was kind of going up the middle. So after that fumble, Mississippi State answers, 9 plays, 39 yards, field goal, tie game at 27. So at this point, it's anybody's ball game. And I know in the stadium, we were all kind of just saying, like, all right, Gamecocks, like, you cannot lose this game. And we talked about that on the Thursday or Friday show last week, where this was not the most defining game for Shane Beamer as a Gamecock coach, but probably one of the biggest ones for this season. Maybe the most defining game of the season so far for Shane. It'd have been nice to beat North Carolina. It was always going to be tough to beat Georgia, but to have a 6, 7, 8 win season, Gamecocks had to win that game. So South Carolina kicks a field goal on this drive. Big drive, get points on the board, 30-27 Gamecocks. Mississippi State would fumble on their next drive, 3 plays, 22 yards. Will Rogers was trying to rear back and throw a ball. I don't know how far, but Jordan Strong got the sack, stripped it. The Gamecocks recovered the fumble. It was reviewed. Gamecocks ball. Set the Gamecocks up with prime real estate for the next drive. Gamecock touchdown on the next drive, 4 plays, 22 yards. It went Eddie Lewis catch for 9 yards. Mario Anderson run for 4. Mario Anderson no gain on the run. And then Mario Anderson. And this is, and if you don't have Instagram or you haven't seen any of these videos, try and go back and watch this and watch Mario Anderson's reaction after this 9-yard touchdown run. He never stopped moving his legs. The Gamecock offense helped him into the end zone. Gamecocks 37, Mississippi State 27. You could just see the emotion pouring out of Mario Anderson after scoring that touchdown in an SEC game, what he's been dreaming of his entire life. And it was a really, really, really nice moment for Mario Anderson. Yeah, and Thomas Cox, just to point out, that no call, the entire stadium blew up. Everybody was blowing up my phone talking about, like, what the heck? How is that not called? And on a night when Spencer went 18 for 20 with 1 drop and that incompletion, that was clearly pass interference. It was kind of an injustice to Spencer. I'll say it that way. So Gamecocks are now up 37-27. It feels like everybody in Williams-Brice Stadium, everybody watching on TV, and all Gamecock fans listening on the radio can kind of breathe, because next drive, Mississippi State turned the ball over on downs, 9 plays, 40 yards. Drive ended on a 4th and 7 when Will Rogers couldn't complete the pass. Gamecock fans are feeling good. Gamecocks go 3 plays, 5 yards, and punt again. Again, this was a punt that kind of got forced with Spencer Rattler getting sacked on 3rd down with 6 minutes left. Mississippi State did kick a field goal in the waning moments of this game. They went 13 plays, 68 yards. Mississippi State actually elected to kick this field goal on 4th and 4 from the South Carolina 29-yard line. And I kind of wondered if they would. I thought that they had moved the ball really well in this drive, 13 plays, 68 yards, like I said. But, a lot of coaches nowadays play the odds. Okay, well, is it easier to get a field goal late or a touchdown late? And I don't know all the analytics. I can't pretend like I do. But I will say that on this particular play, I think I would have gone for the touchdown try, because you're still relying on an onside kick. I don't think they had any timeouts left, but on the last drive, you turned the ball over on downs. So you kind of had to get points on the board. And the way they were moving the ball, I had a sigh of relief when they kicked the field goal. I'll put it that way. Mississippi State, went for the onside kick. They weren't able to get it. South Carolina ran the clock out. Gamecocks win the game. And you just feel like you can breathe after all that. Gamecocks, moved to 2-2 on the season, 1-1 in the SEC. This felt like a football game that you haven't really seen lately with the running clock. Gamecocks had, 5 drives in the first half, but the Gamecocks had 7 drives in the second half. Mississippi State had 6 drives in the second half and 6 drives in the first half. So you're not seeing as many drives nowadays, this college football season as you saw in the past. So a lot of scoring opportunities, a lot of opportunities there for Gamecocks to blow it. They didn't. They persevered. They did a great job. So really, really excited for Gamecock fans, Gamecock players, the coaches. United got to get ready for Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be a bit of a problem. It's never easy to go play in Neyland Stadium, but let's see. I'm gonna before I go into Tennessee, and we'll talk about all that on Thursday. Let me check in on the chat box. Will says, I love when the O-line pushes the runner into the end zone. It shows great teamwork. I 100% agree. If you go back and you watch some of that Instagram stuff, you can kind of see the entire offensive line, and they kind of put it with like a symphony, and it's really fun to watch. And I love it. And that's just a way to get a couple extra yards. I mean, look what Philadelphia Eagles are doing right now with Jalen Hurts. I mean, it's a cheat code. If you can have a guy that's athletic and can keep their feet moving, then there good things will happen. And maybe that's what the Gamecocks need to get going. Let's just keep feet moving and let's just keep pushing that line. It worked against Georgia on Mario Anderson's 4th down conversion. So let's keep doing that. JB says, keep up the good work. I appreciate you, JB. Thank you. Yeah, Xavier. Xavier says, it may just be me, but I will say I never really felt like we were in serious danger of losing the game, though. I felt like that to an extent, Xavier. Maybe it's just the Muschamp era. Maybe it's towards the end of the Steve Spurrier era. But I was just waiting for that other shoe to drop. I didn't understand how Will Rogers could, do what he did. I mean, obviously he has all the accolades in the SEC and Mississippi State, and he's a heck of a thrower and air raid offense. But I was not expecting to see 487 yards on 48 attempts from Mississippi State, and definitely not, expecting to see LaDetra Griffin have 7 catches for 256 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I'd have to go back in the record books. I don't know how many opposing players have ever had 256 yards receiving against South Carolina. Let's see. Zach Anderson says, Matt, just tuning in. Would love it if you could eventually give a basketball recruiting rundown, current South Carolina recruiting plus the general, how it works, how many scholarships, etc. Yeah, Zach, I definitely will do that. Basketball is kind of my forte. I love football. I love baseball. I love talking about it, but I will definitely have that. And I'll talk to you all about that. That's definitely something we'll do into the, excuse me, we'll do in the future. Probably closer towards the end of October. But we'll definitely make room for that. Maybe we'll make a special podcast for that, and you can check it out whenever. But yeah, well, we're going to be talking a lot of basketball coming up soon. So excited for that. Will said, felt like we overcompensated to stop the run and left the pass open. Yeah, I've talked to a couple people about the game, and and Clayton White specifically. I don't think Clayton White didn't know how to stop the pass, and maybe overcompensating to stop the run. Yeah, I can see that. Mississippi State did have the SEC's leading rusher coming into the game, and I just personally, maybe an adjustment needed to be made. It definitely needed to be made. I don't know if DQ Smith was the guy that you really wanted chasing LaDetra Griffin. I don't know who the right guy would have been. Definitely bite down on the play action. Mississippi State had been a running team, and it was. And I talked about it. I thought that, this was the right time to catch a Mississippi State. They're transitioning their offense, and maybe we caught them a game too late. Maybe they've kind of figured out what they want to do, and they understand that this season they're going to have to pass the ball. And I don't know if you're going to see them throw for 487 yards against other teams or how they're going to change their offense up. But me personally, I thought with the but the way the defense played, stopping the run, getting after Will Rogers for the most part, I just felt like there was a mismatch on the other side of the field. And sometimes you have a Tyreek Hill that whatever you do, you can't stop him unless your name's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick seems to understand how to stop Tyreek Hill. But yeah, look, I'm not a defensive coordinator. I agree. Like Xavier and Thomas, you both have great points here. Everything was geared to stop the run, and maybe on one hand you say they did. They definitely got after the quarterback. Gamecock defense held Mississippi State to 32 yards rushing, 1.4 yards per rush. Gamecock defense tallied 4 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. I mean, I think if you said the Gamecocks are going to win by 7 points, cover the spread, Gamecocks are going to get 4 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. You're going to have over 140 yards rushing, and Spencer's going to go 18 for 20. We'd all taken that going into the game. It's just kind of weird how the game kind of plays out sometimes. If you told me that stat line, and I would have said, well, the Gamecocks are going to win by more than 7 points, until you told me they were going to pass for 487 yards. Then I would have had Texas A&M flashbacks, But notable snap shares here. And I always like to look at this. If you're on the Big Spur, you can go check these out. But I think Whittle puts this out. Mario Anderson outsnapped Dakereon Joyner 45-26. So I think you might be seeing that transition there, that changing of the guard, where Mario is going to be more of that 20 to 20 yard line guy, and maybe Dakereon's going to be inside the red zone. But Mario Anderson's clearly good enough to do that. He caught a lot of passes as well. So coming out party for Mario Anderson. Omega Blake played 57 snaps, only 2 less than Xavier Legette at 59. Nick Harbor had 11 snaps. Tyshawn Russell had 16 snaps. Really good to see the young wide receivers getting out there. We've all been looking for Nick Harbor and Tyshawn Russell, and for them to continue, getting more and more snaps. They're going to get more and more comfortable. Hopefully Juice is back for the Florida game. I'll be honest, guys. I think that's a best case scenario, no matter what you hear. I hope he's back after the bye week. You're still talking about, a 3-week recovery from when the injury happened at Georgia. But who knows? Trey Knox had 59 snaps versus Josh Simon's 37 at tight end. Big Tree played all 69 snaps at left tackle. I thought he looked really good doing it. Nick Garugelo, Tyshawn Wanamaker, and Vershawn Lee also played 69 snaps. I'm excited to see that, left tackle, left guard, center, right tackle are playing a lot of snaps together, because then you have Trevon Ball, who played 46 snaps, 23 for Ja'Kai Moore. I think that the sooner that Trevon and Big Tree can get comfortable, the better the offensive line will be going forward. The defensive line had 10 players log at least 7 snaps. We always talk about rotating the defensive linemen to keep them fresh, and that's a good thing. Same thing with linebackers. It was nice to see Bam Martin Scott and Grayson Pup Howard get in there for double-digit snaps. 8 defensive backs log snaps. The Gamecocks are going to have to keep the defense fresh this year, because if the offense gets one-dimensional and they can't run the ball, and you see those 3 and outs that we talked about earlier, you might have 5 plays for 8 yards, or 5 plays for 13 yards, or 3 plays for 3 yards, and then all of a sudden the defense has to get back out there. It's nice to see all these guys logging snaps. I think the depth's coming back to the roster, and that'll allow South Carolina to hold up longer in each game. That's a good thing. Let's see here in the chat. Yeah, Legette's a good reminder not to give up on young players. I think Landon Sampson's a guy to consider when you think about the wide receiver room there. Thomas Cox says, glad to see AB coming back this week. He's really good at yak. Yeah, he's a great yards after catch guy. Definitely somebody that provides an extra element, extra gear to the offense. I think that those drops are behind him. It would be good to get him going early, get some momentum, because juice or no juice, the South Carolina offense is going to be difficult to defend if Mario Anderson can get out there and do what he did against Mississippi State. And we'll see what happens in Rocky Top. I think that Gamecocks are definitely capable of winning that game, and I don't agree with the 12.5 point spread. TJ Sanders is the best D lineman. Yeah, I agree, Will. Will says TJ Sanders the best D lineman. Tonka and Alex Huntley are doing a decent job. I think that I'm still looking for more out of them. Still looking for more at defensive end. I think those guys are going to come along, and I think that Florida might be that unveiling of what that defensive line can look like long term. So, guys, that's kind of the recap of the Mississippi State game. If you guys want to stick around for a bit, I promised everybody on Friday that I would tell you a quick story, and I didn't want to say it before the game, but the Mississippi State game actually is kind of near and dear to my heart. Don't have a heck of a lot of Mississippi State stories, but the one that I do have is when I was 11 years old, my best friend, who had cancer his entire life, he got introduced to Lou Holtz. And long story short, my best friend was going up to Boston for cancer treatment, going to MUSC in Charleston a lot, and developed a really, really tight relationship with Lou Holtz. Well, my best friend actually passed away on September 23rd, 2000, the day of the fade game with Eric Kimmery coming in off the bench to throw a fade to Jamel Kelly. And I actually found out on the way to the game that my friend had died, and really tough. And we got the word to Lou Holtz. And at halftime of that game, Lou Holtz actually put the flag at half-mast in honor of my friend, Tyler. So, kind of crazy that 23 years later, Gamecocks are playing Mississippi State again. Can't say enough good things about what Lou Holtz did for my friend and his family. Just really something that I wanted to share with you guys because, sports should bring people together even in times of adversity. And just remember, there are a lot of good people in sports, and Lou Holtz was definitely one of those to many, many people, but especially to my friend Tyler. So I was really happy the Gamecocks got the dub. It was a little emotional for me, having the Bulldogs back in Williams-Brice Stadium 23 years to the day. So I was really pumped up for that. I'm really excited. And just remember, guys, there are good people in sports, and sports can transcend just winning and losing, and just happy the Gamecocks won. So with that being said, it's 9:50 almost. Do y'all have any rapid fire questions that you'd like to ask me before we hop off the chat? We can go for another 5 minutes or so. Any questions? Not seeing any at the moment. Well, guys, really enjoyed spending time with you all tonight. Really excited for the Gamecocks going forward. And my brother actually said that he was really excited that I was really excited because I'm really excited about a lot of things on this show. So I'm an optimistic person. I always enjoy spending time here talking Gamecocks. I want to thank all of you for giving me the most valuable thing you have, which is your time. That means the world to me. And I will be back on Thursday to talk more Gamecocks with you. As always, if you'd like to get a hold of me, you can reach me at latenightgamecockshow@gmail.com. You can find me on the Big Spur under the username Matt Anderson. And with that being said, wish you all a good night, and we'll talk Thursday. Talk to you soon.